Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on the USMJ sector. Finally got internet at my house, but I've still got no furniture, so we're laying down outside on the porch. We've got some birds in the background. Maybe the frogs will come out. I've never been here at night before. First sleepover, so that's exciting. But we're going to look at USMJ and then Canadian MJ shortly after in the next video. So we'll start with the big boys. GWPH definitely has my interest. It's in a pattern where we continually break support and see no follow through. That alone has my interest when I look at the longer term time frame, the weekly chart, holding exponential support, looking for a higher low. Let's see if these bulls can show up and change this daily trend to tell us our weekly higher low has been set. And then we're looking back up at two resistance levels, 188.76 and the all-time high of 196. So the daily time frame, we can see we have a clear lower high pattern where every bounce is a lower high. 196, 188.76, 182.05, 179.74, and then we pulled back just under it. It's pretty much a double top at this point, and the bulls are hoping that this is going to look a bit like an inverse head and shoulders pattern with our left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, and with both of the neckline levels being at the same price. It'll be a very clear bull break if that does indeed happen. That's what we're watching for. If you're looking for that play to occur, you could be making an entry and your stop would be under 167.91. Because if that were to break, then it is not an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and we would be watching to see if the bulls can keep up defending support breaks. But next 2-3 days are going to be very telling this week as to whether or not the bulls are going to be able to set this clear weekly higher low. Congrats to the IIPR bulls. Absolutely insane run up. So we saw a move from 100 to 138. 38% move in just about less than 6 days. So we've pulled back very significantly now. That's a lot of selling volume. But we're going to get a great bounce whenever that bottom does get hit. We have one support at 116.18. You could call that the daily higher low. I'm watching the daily exponential support as a bit of a visual guide. And we're watching the hourly RSI. As we know, the hourly RSI getting oversold for the first time since a very strong bull move, notably all-time highs, is a good place to be scouting for a bounce. So if we start week on Monday and break 116.50 first thing, I would be watching for a potential scale in down towards 110, and then we would just look for a lower high on a bounce. But you can see these bounces. On Friday, we bounced 117.51 to 124. That's very significant. That's a 5% bounce or so in just under 2 hours. So we'll see if we get that volatility. Again, the size of the pullback from the high at this point, we're going to look to bottom out wherever that happens and then bounce and set a daily lower high. Cura. So Cura is still rejecting from the daily exponential resistance. It's a very clear guide for us, just visually speaking. We have resistance at 1070. We topped out at 1053. And now the question is, can the bulls hold the low of 938 and break 1053 for a more clear shift in momentum? Because if that were to happen, we would then begin getting over these exponential resistances. We would certainly want to close strong if that did happen, but you can see that as they keep dropping down, if the price gets over 1053, we're going to clear that exponential moving average. So that is what the bulls want to see pulled off. If we break 938 support, we're looking down at the gap fill of 923. Let's go back to the daily. 923 is where this gap fills down here. So that's our next target if indeed we do drop to lower lows. Keeping an eye on Curaleaf, it's held up better percentage-wise in terms of the size of the pullback at this point, as well as the number of weeks we've been pulling back. 7 weeks in a row with lower highs. Some of the more extreme names are 9 or 11 weeks into that pattern. C-Web, one of the lead bounce bulls out there, trying for a daily bull flag. This is very healthy consolidation at this point. We lost the pattern of a higher low every day, which we had 4 days in a row on this bounce, but the bears got no follow-through on the loss of the hourly uptrend. So we set our low, and actually you could technically say we haven't lost the hourly uptrend yet. We didn't have many clear established supports on the hourly on the way up, aside from the low of every day. So we pulled back, and we didn't break that 1868 low yet. The bulls held that at the end of the day and saw a bit of a bounce. So as long as we don't see any bear volume any significant bear volume or significant bear follow through, we're looking at a daily bull flag. And obviously that would be best case for the bulls to confirm a daily trend change with a higher low and then continuation. Best case for the bulls to start this week, hold $18 and break 2070. And that will be very notable as far as continuation goes. TRUL. So the bulls here did break some key resistances. 1491 was a double top, so that break is notable. But daily consolidation is underway here as well. So we know that we broke a resistance level, but let's disregard that for right now. And it's the same thing as Curaleaf. 1335 is the low. The bulls must hold that level and break 1517 to confirm a daily trend change. Best case scenario for the bulls is hold $14 to form that higher low and then break 1517. IAN is still very clearly the lead bear. Why is that the reason? I don't know, but we can speculate that it's potentially shorts jumped all over it when that option news came out. It started pulling back a bit harder than other names even before that, so you could say it's perhaps share overhang from the MPX merger that took place. I don't have the answer, but I am still interested in IAN. I do still have a position. So at this point, my swing positions, I'm comfortably green on OH and still in the red on IAN, but I did sell half of my position up at the end of the day on the 17th and the start of the day on the 18th. So I will be looking to reload what I sold and just keep dropping my cost basis down. I personally am very comfortable that I will get out of this trade with profit. It's just going to require more active management, so to speak. So if I look at this pattern on the weekly time frame, it's a lower high every single week now for 12 weeks in a row. I want to position myself so that I will be profitable in my trade once that pattern breaks. So as long as I'm keeping my cost basis below, let's say, the high of this previous week of 478, I'm very comfortable because I know we're not going to keep up this pattern forever. I will continue to sell bounces into lower highs and reload weakness. Now, I'm not looking to reload yet. And the reason I have not reloaded yet is because I want levels to be extreme. Back here when I started buying, and I was just one day too early, and that made all the difference, where I would be even more comfortable if I had waited one extra day. But the reason I started entering back here is because we were getting to extremes. The daily RSI was low 20s. The 4-hour RSI was absolutely crushed. So now we're in a scenario with a week close at the low of the week. The weekly RSI is on the verge of oversold. The daily RSI is getting back to oversold. The 4-hour RSI getting back to oversold. But you can see they're not extreme. We were just down at 19 on the 4-hour RSI, and we're currently at 32. So I am not interested in re-adding my position unless we see strength in terms of bulls clearly changing momentum, which is certainly the less likely scenario at this point, or a clear drop to get those RSI levels back to overextended again. And on the daily time frame, we have a resistance level of 442, and then the most important for me is 478. The top of the bounces, wherever they occurred from this most recent bounce, is the most important resistance level for me on any individual name. So I will still be looking at IAN, but I will not be making any trades on it unless things get extreme. And looking at where RSI levels are right now, we would probably have to see IAN drop down to about 380 before I would consider starting to scale back in again. CL, another one of the bounce leaders. Look at the weekly time frame. Again, the pattern of a lower high every single week for 7 weeks, breaking in a big way. So the daily time frame is trying for a bull flag here as well. As long as the bulls hold for 1149 and break the top of 1514, we have a trend change. And the bulls would love a bull flag. Holding $14 would be extremely strong. And then we would be looking up at 1601 as the next resistance if we do see continuation. So again, OH, CL, CWeb standing out for their strength as far as bounces go. IAN standing out for his weakness. And everybody, I think I just called it he. Apparently we've got a sex now for our stocks. But now I'm throwing myself off of my flow. So far this is ideal consolidation, and the question is, can we get the continuation that the bulls need for continued confidence? Don't lose sight of the longer term time frames. CL, anything under the all-time high, is a weekly lower high. And we want to see the bulls make as much space as they can before that all-time high, and then we would look for the potential equilibrium. It all depends on whether we get this daily trend change or not. OH, not as strong, and the biggest difference here is the daily exponential resistance. So it's rejected the last few bounce attempts, and we can really call it the last 4 or 5 bounce attempts, and it's rejecting this one as well. So again, the bulls have to hold 760. We have to pull back, set a daily higher low, and then break 930. The one thing the bulls do have going for them is that we have not broken the higher low everyday pattern at this point, which is 5 days in a row now. Get over these exponential resistances, and that is the beginning of a shift in momentum, and the first shift since that all-time high. HARV. So here the bulls are struggling at the daily exponential resistance as well. We have our low of 737. We have our high of the bounce up at 854. The bulls have to hold 737, break 854. That would be a daily trend change, and that would get us over these daily exponential resistances for the first time in almost 2 months. Looking at the weekly time frame, we would still just be looking for a weekly lower high to form, and HARV is one of the names where the monthly time frame has pulled back more than the bulls would like to see. The odds of monthly continuation are way less likely than the odds of a monthly lower high, whereas for someone like perhaps CL, that is not the same scenario. The monthly time frame on CL, much more favorable for potential continuation than a name that has pulled back this much on the monthly. And again, IAN and HARV would be in the category of names that are likely to see monthly lower highs once we do bounce. GTII. So again, you could say that GTII changed the trend, and I wouldn't spend too much time arguing with you. But for me personally, this is not enough of a trend change. It was a one-day bounce where we topped out, held support, and then broke it. That's not significant. 1650 is the most important level for me because that's a significant resistance level that the bulls established support and spent a lot of time trying to break that level and couldn't do so. That's the most clear resistance level that we've set in the last 3 weeks or so. So at this point, we have support of 1305 and 1321, but I need to see the bulls get over 1650 for a very clear shift. And again, the daily exponential resistance has been resistance at this point for a couple months, and the bulls have to get over it. So for me, I need daily trend changes with a higher low and higher high, and I need daily exponential 12 and 26 period moving averages to become support for a notable shift to take place. MedMen has my attention. The bulls did a good job of buying that dip. We are on the verge of breaking this support, or resistance I should say, and this would be an inverse head and shoulders pattern, changing the daily trend. Lower highs and lower lows, higher low, have to break the double top at 311 for the higher high, and that would be notable. And if we break 311, we got to break 321 shortly after. It would be a red flag if that did not happen. A lot of dip buying on Friday, and it looks like the bulls are just priming themselves and getting ready for this break next week. The bull cross of the 12 and 26 period, close to occurring. It did occur before with a lack of follow through, so that makes it a less important signal for me. But the daily trend change for the first time since March would definitely be notable. KSHB. So bulls are trying to change momentum here. We have a low of 420 and a high of 455 just in the short term. Bulls have to break 455 to set our daily higher low. So we have the low of 404, the high of 481, our higher low of 420, and the bulls are, well, actually, we can't call that our higher low confidently unless we see the bulls shift back up over 455. But that would be our higher low and a more long, drawn-out equilibrium. This is one that I'm going to be watching into the start of July if it is still intact at that point. CVSI also getting pretty tight, and the bulls here have to hold 932 and break 494. That's a long ways away. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. You can see 498 and 494 clear resistances, and the bulls are not giving us any conviction that we've formed a higher low. I need to see the bulls make their way back up to the mid $4 range to try and see an equilibrium form here, but it does not look like CVSI bulls are going to break 494 anytime in the near-term future. NBEV. So NBEV was the scenario where we laid out what the bulls needed to do to see a clear break, but this was one of the ones where previous price action was so important, because you could look at this and say we changed the daily trend and got no follow through. Why did that happen? And the reason is this is a wall of resistance that was previously support, and we knew that resistance was right behind 492, so we can't be that confident in the break of 492 alone. We have to see the follow through over $5, which we did not get. And if we break 451 now, which is our daily higher low of support, this is going to look a lot like a weekly bear flag, and it already does. So a break of 451 increases the odds significantly that a weekly bear flag is forming on NBEV. ZYNE, weekly time frame, the scaffolding of the trade that we're watching is an equilibrium setup. High, low, we're scouting for a lower high. We have not lost the daily uptrend yet, so we're not confident that it has been set yet, but we know it's likely coming soon. So if we break 1255, the daily uptrend is lost. There's another scenario where we hold 1255, can't break 1490, and then lose the daily uptrend. We're still in the uptrend, so the bulls still have potential to see a move back up to the high. I personally am just expecting to lose the daily uptrend before we break 1647 and see this weekly equilibrium tighten up probably into later July. PYX dumped, broke all support nearby. 1635 was a key level. Another leg down, looking at it on the weekly time frame. It was a bounce that got no follow through, no trend change, and now we're looking at the monthly equilibrium still in play, and a higher low has to form compared to 1130. We're getting down towards that level, but we're still 30% plus above it, so not really close to that. And we know that when we bounce, we're just looking for a daily lower high compared to 1840, so no trend change is likely to happen anytime soon. And have to change the hourly trend to even get that daily bounce going. And that has not happened yet. We bounced from the low Friday, but no hourly trend change. PLTH. I don't like the clarity of this chart, so I try and zoom out and find something that's more clear for me. And I can see the support, 235 and 241, very important. Bulls want to close over $3 on the weekly level, but at this point, I don't like where we stand as far as establishing a trade game plan with the lack of clarity, the lack of higher lows and lower highs right now. So this is a name that I personally would avoid for that fact. 262 is a support level. Essentially, I need to see the bulls break 286 for any kind of shift in momentum. And you can see the inability to close over $3 psychological resistance the past month plus. BAMM, so we're getting to these low cap names now, and they're still really struggling. At least BAM has a bounce attempt going. 111 is support. Bulls have to break 155 and 173 for it to mean anything. But the gains are going to be so much more significant here than on the bigger names. There's just a lot more risk and reward. So if we do change the trend, just like that, the bulls will be looking at being up 50% in a week. But that's because the pullback has been so brutal. At this point, from the all-time high, which was 2.5 months ago, we pulled back 70%. So keep an eye on these low-cap names if you want. You know, like I said, I'm not trading aggressive right now with where I'm at in my trading career, but if I were, I would be watching for a shift in momentum in these low-cap names, knowing that the gains will be more significant when they do shift things. Tilt is still really struggling. Resistance is 140. We topped out at 133 and closed near the low of the day. Looks like a lot of selling pressure, a lot of profit taking, or I should say shorts jumping back in. 112 is the only support nearby, and if we break 112, we're looking at 110 and $1 psychological, and bulls have to break 140 to prove anything. So BAM has a much better chance of shifting momentum as we had a solid bounce and we are trying to form a higher low. Keep in mind that volume is almost non-existent. We're seeing, less than $200,000 traded, and that is not a liquid trading environment. So certainly cautious there. But BAM's bounce attempt is way better than Tilt at this point with that big upper wick of the bulls getting rejected on Friday. So that's where we stand in USMJ. I talked on Midas Letter on Friday a bit about the broader, bigger picture of things, so check that out if you're interested. And that's that. We got some ducks here, and the duck out in the pond, I was convinced that the previous owners had either fed it or, had become very accustomed to it, because this duck keeps walking up to me a few feet away. But they said the duck just got here a couple days ago, so I just watched her fly up into the tree where she's going to sleep, and the babies sleep down either in the pond or on the ground. I didn't see where they went, but they're certainly not getting up in the tree. So I'll be best friends with them in no time. Got some duck food on the way, and we'll certainly watch them grow up over the next couple of months. And other than that, went to a fish show last night, and right when I walked through the gate, 4 people recognized me from MJ videos, and it was like I was their long-lost friend, so that was great. I appreciated that warm welcome. And I'll see you all in the Canadian MJ video in 10 minutes.